So this is interesting. President Trump tightening the screws on China, even as Beijing says, and this is the big statement for them, there would be no harm in holding some trade talks. U.S. tariffs on China would now equal 145%. That's the starting point. And President Trump posting this last night on Truth Social, quote, all purchases of Iranian oil or petrochemical products must stop now. Any country or person who buys any amount of oil or petrochemicals from Iran will be subject to immediately secondary sanctions. They will not be allowed to do business with the United States of America in any way, shape, or form. Now, analysts say that Iran sells 90% of its oil to China. That's the whole business, folks, for them. More than 1 million barrels a day in March, and that jumped up from 80% in February because of concerns about possible U.S. sanctions. So with that, we bring in Presidential Envoy for Special Missions, Rick Grenell, former U.S. Ambassador to Germany. Rick, it's always good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today. You know, we've heard this kind of slight thaw in the potential for talks with China, that they're open to at least talking. We know there have been efforts to talk and negotiate a little bit with Iran, potentially. And then this hammer. If you do business with Iran, you won't do business with the U.S. What does this move signal?
Well, first of all, it signals that President Trump understands the power of the United States government and all of the tools that we have. I love the fact that we have a president that just doesn't think about the military, but thinks about the economy and how to really utilize all of those tools. Remember, Martha, this was very popular with Democrats. We heard after the COVID meltdown that we had across the globe that Republicans and Democrats came together and said, we can never have this supply chain problem again. Rubber gloves, masks, testing kits, all of that was made in China. And we all came together and said, we've made a mistake since we allowed the Chinese to be in the World Trade Organization, since Bill Clinton did that right at the end of his presidency. We have seen the situation with China get worse. And so there was an agreement across the political spectrum that we needed to bring the supply chain home, start manufacturing again. And what that means is confronting some of these issues. It's not just about tariffs, but it's about currency manipulation from other countries, including China. And it's about subsidies that are literally hidden. And so it's not a level playing field. And what President Trump is doing, because he's an expert on the economy, is saying, look, I'm going to pull out all these tools that we have. We're the greatest economy in the history of the world, and we are going to leverage this. It's not just about the tariffs, but the tariffs are really a tactic to get us to the place where we begin to have manufacturing back in this country. You look at clothing. All of these companies that make clothes in America, some great companies, some really cool companies like Cuts. I love this sporting company that does all sorts of casual gear for men. They're having a lot of trouble because everything is made in China. We don't do any cut and sew manufacturing in the United States. That's long gone. You look at steel. Whatever the issue is, whatever the industry is, we've got to bring it back so that we are using technology to be the greatest manufacturing country in the history of the world instead of just a consuming country.
And clearly that's the big issue with China. I just want to go back to Iran for a minute here, because if you cut off Iran's ability to sell their oil, obviously, that's going to be very devastating to them. The top military advisor to Ali Khamenei says that President Trump's behavior is destructive and unlawful with regard to this. How far away are we from the potential, this sort of Damocles hanging over Iran's head, that if you don't negotiate, we will take out potentially those nuclear sites, which we agree cannot exist?
Well, you're not surprised, Martha, because I know you know this about me. I'm a career diplomat, somebody who's been at the State Department. I've never worked at the Pentagon. So what you're going to hear from me is constantly talking about peaceful solutions. And we do have a lot. And President Trump is somebody who wants to solve problems peacefully. But let me just say that when it comes to Iran's oil, we already did a very good job in the first Trump administration to make sure that there were worldwide sanctions and that countries who were taking the oil from Iran, countries that some of them are our allies, like Japan and India and China and others, we have to make sure that we squeeze them. We know that the Iranians are hell-bent on trying to get a nuclear weapon. They've lied about heavy water. They've lied about the number of centrifuges. Yep. John Kerry has been duped so many times by the Iranians. We can't be duped. We got to be clear-eyed. And President Trump has a team that is understanding that squeezing them on their revenue source, which is their oil, is the right way to go. And so we're going to continue doing that policy that we did in the first Trump administration. Yep. And President Trump has now put China on notice.
You're right.
Don't buy Iran oil.
Strong message to a place like Japan as well, which is in the midst of some trade agreements right now with the United States. So if they give up that Iranian oil, maybe that'll grease the skids a little bit for them. Rick, thank you very much. Always good to see you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.